Hi, this is Doug Howard with Growth Team Strategies with another episode of Selling the Dream, our podcast about getting your business ready to sell or transition. I'm here with Kathy Fleck, our all-star consultant that has been through the sale process in her own business. Kathy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Doug. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderfully. Today we're going to talk about a very boring topic, and we're going to make it so incredibly interesting to talk about, right? And the topic really is the importance of a good set of books when you're selling your business, right? So I don't think anybody ever went into business, you know, opened a restaurant or a construction company or whatever, just to have the fun of doing the books, doing the financials, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about, a good set of books, what does that mean to you? As a business owner or somebody that sold a business, I mean, because for some people, I think it's like, I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I didn't either at first. I mean, I understood the basics of financials from being in the corporate world, but I really didn't pay a lot of attention to the ratios and being in the remodeling industry, what's kind of normal, what would make my business better, what kind of bottom line I should have. And so I think understanding that really, started understanding that when I was going through some coaching and being in a remodeling organization with a group of peers. And so I think understanding the books are knowing your profit and loss, what goes into your gross profit, where are the expenses, how can you control your administrative costs, and really what a good bottom line should be. And then comparing it month to month or quarter to quarter, year to year, so that you can end up seeing where your growth is. I think if people don't understand the financials, then they don't really manage them.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And so I think at the very least, someone would have a good profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, maybe some other management reports that support that information.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people, accounting information should really tell you three things, right? It should tell you what happened, what does it mean, and what are we going to do about it? And for a buyer, I think it's so important because they're trying to find out, you know, how likely is it this business is going to be profitable? How predictable is future revenue? So I think one of the first places that they get some level of comfort or don't is what are the financial statements even telling us right now? Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. As you're mentioning that, I started thinking about even creating a budget so that they would know, because a potential buyer may not know what a certain industry's standards would look like. And if you're expecting a 10% net profit, and that's supposed to be good for your industry, they may think it's not enough.
Right.
Or if you're doing well above that, then gee, what a profitable business you have. So I think understanding it yourself, you can then explain it to the broker, you can explain it to potential buyers. You can really see where your growth patterns are, or if you need to control something. I know one of my friends in the remodeling industry was surprised when he had some financial loss because he really wasn't managing his books. He let a bookkeeper do it. And so as she decided to embezzle some money, he didn't know about it until afterward. So I think it's also another control factor where you can kind of understand where your money is and make sure you're managing it to the best of your ability, and then get some help to
Right.
understand it. Because I know when I first had was reviewing my books, I didn't really know the differences. What should be material costs versus subcontractor costs, and what those ratios should be. And so, if I'm looking at those ratios, I can then say, okay, I really need to move more of this into a subcontractor, or they're costing me a little bit more than I want, so I can take more in house. So there's a lot of things you can do to promote your business by understanding the financials.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and of course, very early on in the sale process, in one form or another, someone's going to do some uh, valuation of the business, right?
Correct.
Usually it's a third party, an outside. So the first thing they're going to look for is financial information to be able to
Mm-hmm.
even do the calculations they needed to come up with a valuation. Right. So that's sort of the first place along the road. It seems to me that a good set of books are either going to show up or not show up. Right. And then the second thing is that the buyer, presumably, in trying to evaluate the business opportunity, is going to have an accountant, right? They're going to
Yes.
have someone looking at this. And so they're going to be looking at um, the numbers, partly to evaluate the business. But immediately a good accountant's going to say, well, that doesn't even look right, or that number couldn't be possible, or what's that big negative or number that's not accounted for. And then I think the
Mm-hmm.
last piece is if someone does any sort of financing to buy the business, then a banker is going to be looking at these financials,
Yes. Yes.
right? So you get all these markers along the way that even if it's not that important to you as a seller, or even maybe to the buyer themselves, they're not going to get through very many hurdles without a good set of books. When you say,
Yes, and then in addition to that, it's not just current financials, it's going back 3 to 5 years so that
right?
they can see a progression of growth, reason why they would finance the business, reason why the buyer would want to continue in the buying process, understanding that there's some continuity and success with the business. So, and I think if you keep a good set of books, you can end up correcting issues as they go along, but you're also very readily able to send those financials over to the broker so that nobody's sitting there waiting and getting frustrated or having second thoughts. They have
Yeah,
confidence and trust that you're running the business professionally.
yeah. So Kathy, you mentioned confidence, which I think is a such an important part of the selling process, right? There's a certain element of confidence that I need to get as a buyer if I'm going to buy your business.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing seems to shake that confidence more than finding out there's something in the financials that turns out not to be correct.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when that happens, I think it sort of casts a shadow over anything else, not even just financial information, but maybe even anything else that's been said about the
Mm-hmm.
business.
Yes, I would think so. I think that trust and confidence is a very shaky area when you're selling the business. And I know there was an incident I had with the new buyer that caused me to start questioning my trust. And then we had to work through those details. So it can happen both ways too. You're really,
Sure.
like I said, still in that dating process and you don't really know for sure where it's going to go.
Well, we've had some deals too where the business owner maybe wasn't as dialed into their own financials. Something was uncovered that was a problem. They got it corrected, but even the level of confidence that there was
Mm-hmm.
in those books after they were done was still lacking. It was still
Yes.
not what it needed to
Yes.
be, you know?
Yep. And I think if somebody doesn't really understand, they could hire a coach to help them walk through what their financials are, what the different areas mean, and what they can do to correct it. Let's say you have too many cars. You're buying a car for everybody, and someone's going to look at it and say, "Why do we need 4 or 5 cars that you're paying for on a monthly basis?"
Right, right. Yeah.
And so I've seen that with financials, and you think if you're really wanting to sell the business, you've got to curtail those expenses so that you can present a good set of books to the potential buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So if someone's kind of at the point, maybe they're a very good business operator, maybe they haven't spent a lot of time with the books, or, maybe that's just not really their thing. What advice would you give them, Kathy, to kind of start that process to say, hey, you want to get this stuff cleaned up before you get too
Mm-hmm.
far down the road here, right?
Now, I think if they have a good bookkeeper or accountant to get that set up to make sure it is flowing, but they're doing the tactical things, they're not helping the owner to understand what this means. And I think understanding you can start controlling and you can
Hmm.
start making the changes that you need and not let so much money go out the window. So I think a coach can help with that because they can look into it with a clear set of eyes, understanding that what is this? What does this mean? Why do you have so many car payments? Are you operating at a loss? Or what are you doing with your business that you could maybe curtail so that you can sell it and make
Yeah.
some money on it?
Well, it's funny, Kathy. Like a lot of the things that we talk about, right? Things that make it easier or better to sell your business, or things that probably make it easier and better to run your business in the meantime, anyhow.
I would think so. True. Yes, and to give
Right?
you a little bit more calm and peace, knowing that you can make payroll and that you have money in the bank and that you're saving for a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah.
Um, Give you that confidence as well.
Yeah. So I think when people see that business sale or business transition on the horizon, they're starting to think about it. We talk about a lot of things that it's never too soon to do this or that. It's certainly never too soon to get a good set of books, get them cleaned up, make sure you understand them, that you don't carry odd things from one year into the next, or, to just really
Mm-hmm.
sit down. And I think for some people, it seems like financials are kind of in a different language sometimes,
Yes, I
you
agree.
know. But when you read down that list of things that are your expenses or things that are on a balance sheet, you really just got to ask the accountant or ask, the bookkeeper, like you said, what does that mean? What's in that
Mm-hmm.
account? What is,
Yeah.
because I will say that the folks that we get to work with that are excellent at the things that they do, they're great business owners, they're great at construction or business services or restaurants or whatever, you know, they're absolutely capable of understanding their financials. They just got
Mm-hmm.
to take time to do it, right?
Right. And I think it's a gradual process. I think as you're looking at it and you can compare one quarter or 1 year to the next, you start seeing where you've got uh, some growth opportunities and where you can curtail some expenses and make some better decisions.
Yeah,
You
I
have that
agree.
history to go
Yep.
through.
All right. Well, the importance of getting a absolutely. And that's a big part of it, right? Because people are going to be looking at that and they want to see that trend. They want to see things head in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, the importance of a good set of books. If you're thinking about getting your business sold, get on it, get those books cleaned up. And Kathy, appreciate your insights and always enjoy talking about these things because I think we're getting more and more people thinking about things that are going to help them ultimately do what we talk about all the time, which is selling the dream, right?
Yes. Thank you, Doug. Good
All
talking to
right,
you.
talk again soon. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Selling the Dream podcast starring Doug Howard and Kathy Fleck. Both Doug and Kathy have built and sold successful businesses and hope this podcast will help other small business owners do the same. Tune in every week to hear more tips for increasing the value of your company so you get the highest return for your years of hard work when it comes time to sell or transition your business. Can't wait till next week? Check out our website for more information at www.growththemes.com.